Welcome back, Defenders. Jake here. Let's start with an update on the new Kharkiv front. According to President Zelensky, Ukraine has stabilized the situation in the Kharkiv Oblast amid this new Russian offensive. This is also according to the Institute for the Study of War. Russian offensive slows down in northern Kharkiv Oblast, halts 8 kilometers from the border. The two villages everyone's looking at to see if they'll hold. The first one's located right here. This is Lipsy. This is the road that goes to the city of Kharkiv. Russia has to take this. The other one is the larger settlement of Vovchansk. So the pre-war population of Lipsy was about 4,500. Vovchansk was larger, closer to 18,000. 18,000 puts this at about 1/3 the size of Bakhmut and about 60% the size of Avdiivka. And of course, Russia only knows one thing: death and destruction. They want the settlement of Vovchansk. So they're currently just destroying every building and killing every person. This is the only way that Russia can advance. We do have defenders on the ground filming videos, and I want to share what this Ukrainian defender has to say. He's currently in the city of Vovchansk. Good afternoon. Today is May 15th, 2024. The police are in the city of Vovchansk. Police officers from the city of Kharkiv are going to Vovchansk to help with evacuations. Any civilians that they can pick up, they're then bringing back to the city of Kharkiv. Active fighting continues. To confirm the dates, this morning I spoke live on a telethon. We are evacuating people and helping everyone. The situation in Vovchansk is extremely difficult. The enemy is holding positions on the streets of Vovchansk. So people, please evacuate. We are helping everyone. We are working. Together we will win. Glory to Ukraine. Russia wants this settlement. They don't care if people live or die. Ukraine's humanity puts them at a disadvantage. These Ukrainian defenders are trying to save lives. They're trying to help people evacuate while the Russians are firing on them. This makes it more difficult to fight back and to expel the Russian soldiers from the city. So I have to share one of these videos. There's many online of the people evacuating their homes in Vovchansk. And many of these people, they're elderly, and they just have to start walking. As soon as the bombs go off, as soon as their house is hit, they just take to the roads, they take to the fields. Here is I believe this is a police officer picking up an elderly woman walking on the side of the road.
Стой. Вас эвакуировать, да? Все, бабулечка, не плачьте, все, мы приехали, все нормально. Не переживаем, все, вывезем, пошлите. Олег, давай быстрее, давайте в машиночку, бабулечка. Что, не плачьте, все нормально, мы с вами, не переживайте. Господи, Боже мой. Бабулечка, идите в машину, сейчас, иди в машину, идемте, не падайте, все нормально, бабуля, все нормально, держитесь. Идем. Вы с Волчанска, да? Господи, Боже мой, идем, бабулечка. Все буде добре, не плачем. Давай.
The fact that Ukrainians care about their own people, Russia views this as a weakness to exploit. I do want to tell you how this clip turned out. She was evacuated to safety. She was reunited with either family or neighbors, and she's fine right now. So what's the cost? This is the number in my mind that I keep thinking about. These daily casualty rates for Russia opening a new front. They're the ones who wanted this. Are they really gaining anything of significance for all the casualties they're taking? And how are they forcing these Russian troops, many of them brand new contract soldiers with no combat experience, how are they getting these guys to go on these meat assaults? I'll put a D-30 on you. Russian commander coerces soldiers to advance in the Kharkiv region under the threat of death. In a newly intercepted conversation, a Russian commander threatens the soldier that barrier troops will kill him and his comrades if they refuse to go on an assault in the Kharkiv region. I've seen a couple of these videos in the past. Russia uses barrier troops to kill their own soldiers if they fail to attack, fail to go on one of these meat assaults. I'll link this down below. There's no English subtitles, but it is in Russian. And really, Russia's military is just the largest suicide cult in the world right now. This clip is unbelievable. This is a Russian Eastern Orthodox priest. Really, these men have nothing to do with Christianity at this point. The FSB controls the church in Russia. They're using the church to convince Russian men to die for Vladimir Putin, die for the empire. So here's the pep talk this Russian priest is giving to his units before they go into combat. How long are you going to live for? I don't know. How long am I going to live for? I don't know. But the fact that you are here on this land and I am on this land means that God wants this. You can be more useful here than where you came from. We go to the front not to earn money, but to defend our motherland, to be useful, and to give our lives for our family if necessary. All these men are going to die for nothing. Hundreds of thousands, an entire generation of Russian men are going to die for nothing. So let's talk about this new front, and can it happen again? In the Sumy region, in the Chernihiv region, an attack from Belarus from the north, coming down through Chernobyl to Kyiv. Intelligence Chief Budanov said that the Russians are planning the same operation in the Sumy region as they're doing now in Kharkiv. He said Russians are keeping small groups of forces in the border town from the Russian side, but the situation has not yet allowed them to take active actions. Here's our problem. This is what everyone is talking about this week. Russia spent months building up 30,000 troops in the Belgorod region to launch this attack. And Ukraine couldn't stop them. They couldn't use Western weapons to fire on these amassing soldiers. The United States provides Gimler's rounds for the HIMARS, cluster munitions, artillery rounds, and they have to wait for the Russians to cross the border before they can kill them. So the exact same thing is happening now in Sumy, as well as Chernihiv. So Ukraine is asking the United States to lift the ban on using American arms to strike at Russian territory. Secretary Blinken was in Ukraine this week, and he was asked this, and this is kind of the mixed answer he gave.
We have not encouraged or enabled strikes outside of Ukraine, but ultimately Ukraine has to make decisions for itself about how it's going to conduct this war. A war it's conducting in defense of its freedom, of its sovereignty, of its territorial integrity. And we will continue to back Ukraine with the equipment that it needs to.
So Secretary Blinken says it's Ukraine's choice. We'll continue to back them. The State Department was asked the same question again this morning to clarify his statements, and the press secretary said there's no change in policy on Ukraine hitting Russian territory with U.S. weapons. So this is stupid, but the Russians have to cross the border, and they have to take territory before Ukraine can HIMARS them, before they can fire on them with artillery and cluster munitions. I do think this policy is going to change. Russia is trying to use America's rules to punish Ukraine and hurt Ukraine even more. The goal of this policy from the United States is to stop the war from going nuclear. They don't want Ukraine invading Russia or threatening the territory of Russia. So I think there needs to be a carve-out to this policy. And the United States, I do think in the next 2 weeks, will probably tell Zelensky it's okay to use HIMARS and cluster munitions and artillery from the United States within 90 miles of the border on valid military targets. I don't think the United States would ever allow deep strikes with long-range ATACMS, but Gimlers and cluster munitions, this has to happen. Otherwise, what's happening in Kharkiv right now is going to repeat in Sumy and in Chernihiv, as Russia's trying to exploit this loophole to their advantage. The other top story people are talking about, explosions rock Sevastopol, Belbak military airfield attacked again. This was an ATACMS strike over 2 nights. More than likely over 10 ATACMS missiles were used to hit this airfield. The Kremlin says all US-made long-range missiles were shot down, but this claim is easily debunked because, of course, there's pictures and videos. I'll link these down below, but massive explosions. Belbek airfield has been destroyed before, but the Russians keep using it for their aviation. Here's the port city of Sevastopol. Belbak is located to the north. I don't know how recent these Google satellite images are, but they're still using this airfield. It's within ATACMS range, it's within Storm Shadow range, and Russia is still using this for combat aviation missions in the Kherson region. So these are the only pictures on the ground leaked by the Russians. The reports on Telegram is that these ATACMS successfully destroyed 1 MiG-31, 3 Su-27s, an S-300 air defense system, and an S-400 air defense system. From these pictures, this looks like the radar truck for an S-400. Top of the line, very expensive, and didn't shoot down this ATACMS. We don't have before and after satellite images of the base yet, but based on satellites that track heat signatures, we know this region of the base was struck. The Russians also released pictures of unexploded bomblets, so we know the 150-kilometer range variant, the cluster munition variant of the ATACMS, was used to strike this base. Russia lost another oil depot. Ukrainian drones attack a fuel base in Russia's Rostov Oblast. Ukrainian intelligence confirmed a successful attack on a fuel depot in Russia. Eyewitnesses saw the oil depot in flames. Russia says there was no fire. Russian freight train derails due to suspected sabotage. This occurred in the southern city of Volgograd. That's a terrible shame if somebody sabotaged this Russian train. Okay, this is the craziest story of the day. Pro-Russian Slovak Prime Minister Fico was shot, hospitalized after government meeting attack. It was caught on camera. I'll link it down below. The Prime Minister of Slovakia went up to the barrier to shake hands with ordinary people, and somebody pulled out a gun and shot him 5 times. He was in surgery for hours, but he should stabilize. We don't know how badly his internal organs were injured. He did get a bullet in the abdomen, but more than likely he will recover. And I just want to unequivocally say this is not okay. This man was democratically elected, and nobody should be okay with this. But of course, the Russians are trying to spin the narrative and say that because this guy was Russian-friendly, Ukraine is behind this somehow. This is Margarita Simonyan, the head of RT News. She's supposed to be a journalist. And this is what she wrote on Telegram. Slovakia Prime Minister is wounded. The one who said that the special military operation started as a result of Ukrainian neo-Nazis, and Putin had no other choice. This is how they work. What proof do you need? So without any proof, the head of RT News accused Ukraine, as neo-Nazis, of trying to assassinate the Prime Minister of Slovakia. But of course, the guy who did it was arrested, alive, and it didn't take long for people to figure out that he's a far-right nationalist with pro-Russian views. and he still tried to assassinate his own prime minister. I want to say this guy is obviously deranged and mentally ill. Healthy, normal people wouldn't do something like that, but this guy is pro-Russian. I don't think Russia is going to report this on RT News. Ukraine imposes emergency blackouts following Russian strikes on power infrastructure. I have a couple contacts in Ukraine and they all went dark for a couple hours. There was a nationwide power outage, and there will be scheduled power outages in the future as a consequence of all these Russian attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Ukraine is doing their best, but it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. Quick follow-up on the nation of Georgia. Georgia's parliament did adopt the foreign influence law despite the protests. The pro-Russian forces in the Georgian parliament defied the will of the people, despite hundreds of thousands of people in a country that only has less than 4 million. This isn't done. Russia won this parliamentary victory, but I think a revolution is in the future for the Georgian people. And when Russia loses this war in Ukraine, Georgia's going to get their freedom, and they're going to get their territory back. Quick mention, Putin went to China, or maybe Putin's body double went to China. It's always pretty goofy when two dictators get together, but let me show you a little bit of this carpet walking ceremony. This is actually pretty mild by Chinese standards, so Xi isn't giving him this big procession that he's done for other world leaders in the past, but I always hate it when dictators force children to do this kind of stuff. These kids don't have any political opinions or care about these men. The funny picture that everyone's sharing is the negotiations or talks between the Russians and the Chinese. The Chinese forced all the Russians to sit on one side of the table. This is normal, but it's not normal for Putin, and it's not normal for the Russians. Putin has to debase himself sitting next to Shoigu and Lavrov. Normally, when Putin meets with his generals, he has an absurdly long table and he sits 30 feet away, but the Chinese didn't have the space, and they made Putin sit next to his own underlings. Poor Putin. Let's get to the good news for Ukraine. Australia pledges high-speed Sentinel 830R boats for Ukraine in a $66 million package announced. Thank you so much to the people of Australia. This is breaking news out of Estonia. Here's a tweet from the Prime Minister Kallas. We're one step closer to setting a historic precedent in Europe. Our parliament passed the first law in Europe to allow the use of Russia's frozen assets to compensate for war damages. Hope the president will soon announce it as law. I do think Estonia is going to be the first country officially, legally, to take frozen Russian assets in their banks and then just give it to Ukraine. The G7 right now is taking the interest that's accumulated the last 2 years on the principle of the frozen assets, but not the frozen assets yet. I think we will get there, but it's going to take a little bit more time. Secretary Blinken, as I said, was in Ukraine, and he announced a $2 billion military financing package. Basically, this is just money to help Ukraine, and Ukraine, I think, can just use it as credits to buy whatever they want or whatever they think they need. But $2 billion. Awesome. All right, here's the update on my birthday fundraiser. I uploaded this video last Saturday, so it's only been live for six days. And the goal, once again, was $40,000 for my 40th birthday. I wanted to get 2 pickup trucks for Ukrainian military units. And you guys crushed it. I mean, I went numb on Tuesday, and every time I hit refresh, like I can even hit refresh again, and it's currently at $954,000. We will hit 1 million today, I'm pretty confident. If you haven't donated, if you haven't been a part of this yet, and you want to kick in $5 or $10, you can say you were part of the $1 million birthday fundraising campaign with the 69th Sniffing Brigade. 12,500 people donated. I've been blasted across all my social media with comments and messages and emails. My fingers hurt from trying to reply to so many. But I'm just incredibly moved, incredibly touched. So many people are telling me this is their first time ever donating to anything to support Ukraine. A lot of people saying it's their first time donating with a NATO-related organization, such as the 69th Sniffing Brigade. This $1 million is going to make a difference. It's going to save a lot of lives. So I've got another unit video to share with you, and this time it's British and American volunteers in the International Legion. These guys do logistics runs to deliver needed supplies to the front lines, and this is the video they filmed for our channel.
Hi everyone, we're part of the logistics team in the GUR Foreign Legion in Ukraine. We are requesting a truck or a transporter from the 69th Sniffing Brigade, ideally one with a 4x4 capability so we can load as much ammunition and supplies that we can deliver right the way to the zero line to the guys at the front line. We're a group of American, British and other nationalities here in the logistics team that have been here since the start of the full-scale invasion, and we have dedicated our time and our lives especially to making sure that the ammunition and supplies and equipment get to the right place and at the right time. We deliver mortar rounds, normal infantry fighting supplies, etc., right the way through from daylight hours right the way through into the nighttime. So anything that with nighttime capabilities would be amazing too. So thank you once again to the 69th Sniffing Brigade and the international community, because remember, infantry wins battles, but logistics wins wars. Slava Ukraine.
Infantry wins battles, but logistics wins wars. So the guys at the 69th are already making purchases. They're already allocating this money, looking for trucks and buying drones. I think on Saturday I'll make a comprehensive video. Every unit that's getting a truck, every drone that we'll be purchasing. I think the breakdown will probably be $600,000 for about 30 trucks. And then the remainder of the money, we're going to buy some drones to put in those trucks to deliver to these units. Unbelievable, guys. Thank you so much. This has been one of the best weeks of my life, hands down. So many amazing comments and messages. I wish I could respond to them all. Thank you to everyone who's been a part of this. That's all for this update video. Glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes. If you found this video informative, give me a thumbs up. Best way to support the channel. Comments and questions, let me know down below. I love hearing from you guys. Till the next video, keep defending the truth, keep defending democracy.